Oh, next.
Okay, we don't have Linda Williams yet.
It's not me, we did not say that.
Um,
She may be busy.
Okay, it's May 6th, meeting of the Harbor Plan Update Committee, and I'm gonna read off your names, and this is a roll call. Steve Linebacker. Here. Dave Franzuto.
Here.
Emily Molden.
I'm here.
Samantha.
Here.
Who else am I missing? Peter Brace is not, Peter Brace.
It's here.
Peter Brace, are you here? Okay. And Phil Smith is acting as the chair right now. I'm here. Okay, and we are missing Linda Williams. Is there anybody else on the committee we're missing?
Seth,
Engelberg.
Seth.
he won't be here though, he's in Florida, and
Jesse.
Jesse Dunn.
Okay. Okay, and of the staff, we got Jeff, we got Tara,
Here.
and I see Jack there,
Yep.
and we have Kim.
Yep, I'm here.
Let's see, who else do we have here?
We have Allison with Urban Harbors.
Hello.
And then Alan with Urban Harbors.
Right, it's hard to see.
Hello?
Yeah, that's okay.
It's hard to
I'll
see your pictures and your names with a reflection of a light.
And then
Anybody-
Shannon with Urban Harbors.
Hello.
Okay.
And
And
then
we have,
Did you
do we
get
have
Dave
Kristen here?
Conduto?
I'm
Did
sorry?
you get? Okay,
Do we have
and-
Chris?
yeah, Kristen is at another meeting. She can't make this one.
Okay. Okay, so we have a quorum, and what we're gonna do is, we're going to discuss, the, I guess the first of all, can we get an approval of the, agenda? And this agenda is, we're not gonna do voting today, right?
Correct.
We're not gonna do voting, and so we're gonna do water quality, and if we get through that, public access, is that right? Okay.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
envision we'll probably be on water quality for a while.
Okay, so going through approval, Steve? Approving, do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
And a second?
Second.
Second by Peter. This is for the agenda. The agenda, we're not gonna do voting today. We're gonna do water quality. Dave,
Aye.
Samantha,
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
Linda,
Aye.
and I vote aye, and Linda is here, so I'm gonna turn it over to Linda. It's all yours.
And Steve is in the room.
Yeah,
Hello.
he exists.
So used to looking at you guys.
Okay, so Peter, you've got Linda now taking over?
Yeah.
Okay, it's all yours, Linda.
Okay,
We're on the approval of the minutes.
Oh, we gotta do the.
all right, somebody want to make a motion? Did anybody have any questions for the minutes? Thank you, Peter.
Yeah, I didn't send
I
it.
didn't think so.
Now things are insane, so,
We'll hold that
we'll
then.
just hope and pray for next time.
Okay. Because you're working your way backwards anyway.
I'm catching
You're
up.
pretty much up to date, aren't you?
You got 2 or 3 more and I'm
So
caught
it's
up.
from last year sometime. Discuss issues and recommendations, boating, navigation, dredging. We're gonna hold those. We'll go right to, water quality.
Great, thank you. Yeah, so Shannon is going to talk us through the water quality section. She's the one that's been working on it, and Alan is going to take the live notes. So Alan's sharing his screen, and Shannon,
Yeah.
do you want to take over?
Yes, I can take over.
Dave's up there.
Okay. Right, so before we get into the new issues and recommendations, I wanted to go through the matrix of the 2009 issues and recommendations, or more so recommendations, to discuss whether we want to keep some and whether any need to be updated or things we want to remove that have been completed, etc. So we'll just start with objective number 1. So this is the table from the 2009 plan, taken directly from the matrix that the committee made. So objective number 1, increase awareness of water quality issues and ways to protect and enhance water quality through education, outreach, and the dissemination of information. And so the first recommendation is develop school curricula on water quality protection, environment, and environmental awareness. Initiate field studies and in-class science demonstrations. So thoughts on that recommendation?
Well, we're back to that word education again. I think that's showing up in almost every single thing is awareness. Increase awareness. I don't think a lot of people that come here in the summer in particular know what sole source aquifer means. Or that their thing that keeps their lawn green, because there's so many turnovers, new owners. If your green grass is next to the harbor, you know you're doing something wrong.
Or you just have all clover.
That's true. I've got clover.
You're not next to the harbor.
I'm not next to it. I like clover. It's good ground cover. It says 25%. What is the 25% based on?
I think that the lessons that our department holds are, they don't cater to all ages. It just kind of depends on what we're being requested to teach. A lot of times we're in the 8th grade, but we've also gone and done daycare and preschool too. So I think like it definitely needs to be updated and adjusted for different age ranges. So yeah, 25% I'd say is pretty accurate in that. I think there's a lot of different entities besides the town that can contribute to developing this education within the schools or the community.
It's never ending though, because you get 5-year-olds now, they're gonna be 10-year-old, you're gonna have to reinforce it in high school, and then you got the new 5-year-old. I mean, it's a moving target constantly. I just don't wanna, oh, we did everybody, and we don't have to do anybody again for 10 years, because you gotta keep it going. Any comments from anybody here? Dave?
Yeah, Shab did a public forum last year. And we've been asked to go into the schools, and that public forum slide presentation was reworked and is still being reworked by Scott Anderson to present that in the near term to both the new school and the intermediary school. So I just wanted to be noted that, Shab is working on that, and we're actively doing that.
Has anybody asked the schools if we can become a regular presentation every year, like a regular part of their curriculum, as opposed to having they're asking and we never know.
We think that this may be the start of that.
Emily?
Yeah, just building off of Tara's comments as well. I know that they do have a lot of excellent programs down at the hatchery and through NRD that they, I'm sure, do on an annual basis with different classes. I wasn't entirely clear. I mean, this recommendation clearly does speak to specifically to school curricula. But I don't know if it's really intended to just be looking at what the town is doing. As Tara said, there are, we certainly do a lot of programs in the public and private schools, and I know other nonprofits do as well. So I don't know if it's worth sort of building in broader collaboration in here for school curricula, but there definitely is some of that going on, but it should continue for sure.
Yeah, my thing is trying to formalize it and get it so it's a regular thing every single year that we prepare for every single year at these multiple educational opportunities instead of going out there and having to get one. I'd rather see them agree to have it be a regular part of the curriculum, at least in the springtime or whatever.
Right,
See,
what I'm wondering is if there's all these different entities that are, they're doing different types of programs, like, you know, your department and SHAB and the Water Council and Linda Loring, maybe, is there any way to do like a clearinghouse to make sure that so that they can expand what they're doing and not just, you know, maybe they're all targeting the same grades or thing, you know?
Maybe that should be the recommendation. Rather than us trying to say, you know, do
Who,
this with
where,
the
what,
school.
when.
But yeah, do that as a general recommendation.
Yeah, that there becomes a regular part
Figure
of
out
the curriculum
how
at
that-
all the schools, all the
Yeah,
venues.
Right, and then maybe they're not teaching the same, you know, everyone's
Right.
focusing on the same thing, different topics at different grades, I don't know.
Because Mariah Mitchell would obviously focus on the.
I think
animal
that would
part
be a
of it.
better recommendation than being so granular.
Yeah. But that should become a regular part because they're living in a very unique environment and they need to become aware of the environment at a really early age.
And isn't the Egan Maritime Institute involved in schools for its
Or
Right,
something.
educational programs?
Yeah,
yeah,
And
that
if
may
they-
be more
Yeah.
maritime related though.
Yeah, they do an oceanography
Yes.
program with the middle school and that again, I think certainly having a recommendation that talks about coordinating and making sure that all the different schools and age groups are being included as far as having that regular piece of their curriculum. Because some do, but is it across the board? You know, I'm not sure. There was a whole group of us, including the town and a bunch of the nonprofits. It was before COVID that got together with some of the public school administration to try to make sure that we were covering all the grades. But it's been a long time since we've done that formally. So
It's never too young to start having them become aware of the natural environment, their home, their island. So I think this is a big deal here, this section. Any other comments on number 1? Okay,
right.
number 2.
Number 2, establish a link on the town website to a clearinghouse for water quality data and provide information on the Department of Health website. So I think this one has been completed, so we can remove it.
Okay.
yes.
Okay. All right, Rec 3. Seek funding to develop a guide to protecting Nantucket's waters, similar to the Martha's Vineyard publication. This is listed as complete, so I'm guessing we can remove that.
Thank you, Peter.
I wanted to say something about that, though.
Yeah, because
Yep.
we've been talking about that the last couple of meetings.
The Land Council funded the production of 2,500 copies. I still have 6 or 7 cases at my house. Maybe I should bring it in so that those of us who haven't seen it before. But at the very least, maybe the digital file could be incorporated into the plan, into this updated plan, so that people could at least get that. I mean, I'm not gonna blow my own horn because we all worked on it together. I just did the writing of it, but it's comprehensive in explaining our sole source aquifer and all the water quality issues. You know, it needs to be updated a little bit, but it's a one source place where you can learn about all of that. So
Yeah, a link would certainly be to a digital copy,
Yeah,
would be
Updated
fantastic.
though, we should update it.
In the meantime, I don't know, is that something we could get a rack at the Stop and Shop with all the other things that, you know, N Magazine and,
the thing is,
phone book?
you know, the land bank can attest to it. They paid for it. It costs money to produce it.
Yeah,
And it's, you know, it's whatever it is, 70 pages. So if you're gonna be giving it away, someone's gonna have to pay to produce that. Now, you know, in pie in the sky, when I was creating it, I was thinking it'd be great if we could, you know, if every one of the packages that went to the boats that tied up at the boat basin that had their reservations got one, that'd be great. Postal patron would be great. If the realtors who operate rentals gave one to everybody, you know, every time someone bought a house, it's a million ways that you could distribute it, but
70 pages.
60, I think.
Is there any way to do a sort of an abridged version, a cheat sheet? Because nobody's gonna be running around putting 60 pages in people's
Well,
houses.
You know,
It's
you want
done.
all,
know,
mean, this is
but it's
already
gonna run
done.
out. It needs to be updated. That's the problem.
yeah, I'm sure there's a way to do a brochure, but, it's more of a homeowner's guide, you know?
How much, I mean, how many cases of this or how many copies do you have?
I probably still have half of them left over, and, you know, I've given, every once in a while, take a couple of cases to the land council, and they have, places and people they hand them out to, and then I'll bring some and keep it, I'll have some at the place where you can pick up stuff for free at the town building and at the Athenaeum, but there never was enough of them produced to do a large scale distribution to get it out there, so.
Can you
it's-
bring a couple of in, we can take a look at it? I think I have one at home, but I don't know where I put it.
I mean, how out of date are they?
It's not that it's out of date, like, it's numbers like how much sewage is pumped by the boat basin and the town pier. You know, maybe the number of boats that are moored in the harbor, the number of moorings, things like that. It's not something that would take very much to update it, but then if the group said, no, we need to change this, add this, then it goes up from there, so.
I don't see why we don't, first of all, before we update it, why don't we just figure out strategies of getting rid of it, Stop and Shop. I know that all of the real estate agents have a package they leave with people who are tenants.
Yeah, but there's no point
You
giving it
can't
to a
give that
renter. They're not
to a
gonna be
weekly
interested
rental,
in the
no.
long-term care.
But a
Maybe-
homeowner. have it
Maybe
at their
a
house.
turnover of buying a house for a new homeowner, but
Okay,
Because of the cost of producing the hard copy,
yeah.
you know, Steve's right, you want to target people who are gonna get use out of it, you don't want to just have it on a stand at the High Line when people are gonna go, oh, this is cool, and then chuck it.
Right.
STO. Okay,
So I'll bring some in the next time.
all right. Then I'm not sure we should leave it as complete. Should we change the designation on this?
It's,
Is it worth trying to, and not, this is way out of my league, but to put in some kind of language to seek grant funding to update and,
Distribute?
you know, create more hard copies. And to reprint, update and reprint.
I think before we decide if it's gonna be a grant, I think taking a look to see what updates are needed. It's not a ton of updates that may not require.
That's what I want to say. If you can bring a copy and we can take a look at it.
yeah,
But
I think that it's the kind of thing that we should not be asking people to pay for.
oh, no,
No, but it
No.
should be targeted to people that are, as you said, aren't gonna pick it up to look at the glossy pictures of the harbor and then put it in the recycling bin.
Well, this could all be, you know, the objective in this recommendation now,
More education.
or, you know.
Just gonna have education typed on the front page of this thing.
Certain people really want to learn and some don't, so.
some people just don't care.
Okay. Then I think the word complete may be not necessarily accurate, so come up with something else.
Ongoing.
Ongoing, maybe?
Needs updating.
Okay, recommendation number 4.
I think Sam has her hand up.
Oh, there you are. I
Um,
just see a red block.
That's okay. Just real quick on the Nantucket Water Guide. You know, some of those articles in there are so beautifully written that when you pick it up and there's so much to read, I think that there's a real opportunity to take some of those articles, and that could be a really worthwhile use of funding to either ask or pay for them to be in like just one article of it used in N Magazine or in Nantucket Today, you know, as a like having those publications say this is a selection from this publication. And that way, you know, it could be a way to get one of the articles out to a wider net. And then the people who are interested could go to the website, could go find more. Because some of the articles are just so well done. It makes me sad to see them not get that reach. And you're right, if it's at the High Line, you know, people will pick it up, see that it's a lot to read and put it down. But if it's just one article nested into N Magazine or Nantucket Today, we could really try to pique some interest that way.
So we use it as a
This is
hook.
all part of recommendation 3 of, you
Yeah,
know, what do we do, the strategy to distribute, update, et cetera, et cetera.
and how do you hook them into getting, and looking at the whole
Exactly,
thing?
Okay,
And an article like that may be just the hook you need.
yeah, okay.
Okay. Number 4,
Number 4 relates just to what we were talking about. Provide homeowners with a free copy of the guide, along with a copy of all applicable regulations and rules to new homeowners, make available through the town website. So this is referring to
that's
the
good
guide.
as part of number 3.
Yeah, combine that 3 and
Combine
4.
3 and 4.
Yeah,
Okay,
Okay, number 5. Mark all storm drains with red or yellow stencil scallops or dumping in circle with line, indicating the direct input to the harbor or indirect input to the harbor.
I'm not sure the historic downtown will like that.
So we've done that in natural resources before with these little like on curb stickers. They need to be
Yep.
a bunch of things,
I've seen that.
but those stickers were also kind of mixed results. Some of them came off pretty fast. Some I feel like might have got taken off. Uh,
But you had to get HTC approval anyway for that, didn't we?
No,
No?
you don't,
No.
but they could cause a lot of problems.
I've seen in other communities where it's stenciled on and painted, you know,
Yeah.
at the drain, and I've also seen where they're like little placards that are.
again, I think
glued or
we can,
fastened.
You
we
can't
don't need
paint
to
the
be as
cobblestone.
granular as these were. I think we all agree that there ought to be some marking somehow.
Why can't you?
Let
paint the
that be
cobblestone?
part of, you know,
They've got this trailer here now.
We
You're
currently
never
have
gonna paint the
stencils.
cobblestone.
yeah, we
No
have
paint.
stencils.
Yeah,
I think that goal could really just read, we should be marking all storm drains, indicating direct input to harbor and
absolutely.
not get picky about what it's gonna be.
how you
and
do
we'll
it,
figure
what
out.
color it's gonna be.
We'll
all
have to
that
figure
sort of
that
stuff.
out.
I mean, you know, just the issues of guys like, you know, cleaning paintbrushes, you know, heard David Gray talk about it endless times about what ends up in this. in
All
the
kinds
sewer.
of crap
You
ends
know,
up in
Even
there.
latex paint being clean going into the harbor is not a good thing.
Okay, I don't know about the 50% part of it, but.
In
Any other
2010,
comments?
in 2010, that 50% made sense to somebody.
Doesn't make sense now.
No.
How do we calculate 50%? So I take these percentages out of here
Dave-
somewhat.
Dave's got his hand up.
Who's Dave? Dave?
Yeah, it was a good initiative. I think we need to continue it and expand it from 2010. Also, Shab had printed, with help from the Shellfish Association, stickers that say stuff about the paints and everything for all of the commercial dumpsters that are on job sites. So that's an initiative that we've got going on right now.
That's interesting.
So they
That-
print
that
up-
should-
they print up
Well,
about
he's
1,000 of them.
now about recommendation 6.
And every,
Oh, I'm on, still on 5.
I
Stuck
think
on 5.
all the trash haulers, with the exception of one, agreed to have us put stickers on all 4 sides telling people no dumping of toxic materials in dumpsters, since dumpsters aren't waterproof and whatever angle they're on, the stuff flows out, so.
I think for 5 and 6, they shouldn't say percentage. They should probably say ongoing. Is that a better
Right.
term?
Yeah, and updated required.
Yeah, and updated.
Okay, so are we moving on from number 6 or,
Yeah,
okay. All right, so recommendation number 7.
this is so great. This is so great.
All right, so
We were just
recommendation,
on 5, right?
we were, I think, develop brochures, recommendation number 6, I think we're keeping as ongoing.
Yeah.
Develop brochures describing prohibition of dumping of chemicals, waste products, sediment, fuel, oil, or other pollutants and the associated fines.
That's ongoing.
Ongoing, so we're keeping this.
Just put in never ending.
Can I ask
Yeah.
kind of a general question about some of these? I think when I was looking through it, there might be a total of 5 different publications that there are recommendations here to create for different audiences on different topics.
And I'm just wondering, and we can sort of talk about it later and where it would go, but who will ultimately be responsible for implementing that and creating those? Is there a place where we should be recommending the creation of like an education and outreach committee specifically to develop these publications?
Well, that's usually with.
And all the other ones that we talked about.
That's usually, that goes to the Harbor Plan Implementation Group, which was historically separate from this group. We give them the thing and they say, here, go figure out how you're gonna implement it.
Right.
And that's what they were supposed to do. I don't know what the process is gonna be this time. The more, I think, guidance we give them from our side, the better it's gonna be on their side. Instead of leaving it entirely up to them.
Is it gonna be up to the select board to decide if they wanna create an implementation committee? Would that be the level that?
Well, that's happened the
decides that?
last couple of times. I just don't know what they're gonna do this time.
I mean, I think this committee could certainly recommend that as part of the action to the select board,
If
Part
they-
of what?
as part of the plan going to the select board to say you guys need to reconstitute an implementation committee.
Yeah,
I would also say too is, and Dave, feel free to hop in. When this was last under implementation, there was a separate committee.
Yeah.
But there was far less staff of the town involved in this issue too, for continuity. I mean, 2010 that was really working on the harbor plan, it was really Dave.
Yeah,
And now there's a whole natural resources department, there's Sheila at the harbor master, like, there's a lot more town resources for that too, so I.
is that a
that's
good thing or a
helpful.
bad thing?
that's a
I think
good
it's
thing.
very much a good thing.
Okay.
Because when we were doing it the last couple of times, very few of us, and maybe Dave, were on the implementation group. So they didn't have a lot of contact with what we did to develop the plan,
Mhm.
and then it got here. Do your thing. And some of the stuff that they did, I didn't agree with it at all, and that wasn't our intent.
Sure.
So there was there's not enough crossover between us and our discussions with the on the implementation thing.
Yeah.
But they can completely go a
Well-
whole nother direction.
Well, that's why it'd be important if we make our recommendation to create this implementation committee, that we recommend at least a couple members from here are on it,
Absolutely.
so that they can say, this is what we meant.
Dave?
And the other thing too is what Jeff said is true. It's kind of, it's a lot of the same folks and entities as far as departments is concerned, but it's a larger group now.
A lot more, a
So,
lot more.
yeah,
responsibility.
it was easy when it was all under one roof, but I think it's just a larger group. That doesn't make it, I think it might make it easier in some ways.
Because in earlier sections of this, we said Sheila should do this and Jeff should do that and stuff like, we have made recommendations as to which departments should be doing
But
what
that's,
on some of the
but the-
earlier sections we've done.
but that's what Emily was talking about. Emily said it far more clearly than I can, but it's all of these education initiatives, that we're gonna, we have to have an umbrella, a way to do that. But it's all these things that we've talked about education for.
Okay,
Yeah, I think I'd say, I mean, it's not limited to these either. I mean, there's lots of other topics that water quality comes in when we talk about eelgrass or
Eelgrass,
shellfishing or any of those things, right? Like, it's
Right.
kind of an umbrella-y piece, but education in general, I don't know, I always feel like can always be better, but
I
I certainly
think,
wouldn't limit it to like this list. It's much broader than what this is.
right, and the other thing I think also is that this update, I believe, is gonna be, I think we're moving in a different direction. The first and second harbor plans, there was a lot of, you know, um, substantial structural recommendations and improvements. I give you the jetties as an example, okay? But I think where we're focusing now, and it's the right way to do it, is the educational component. So I think the whole plan is now, the whole focus, I believe, of the plan is shifting towards education. It's a lot less than physical improvements or that sort of thing. So I think, we're on water quality, but I think it really needs an umbrella for the whole educational component. I'll stop.
I'm trying to think what that, who the umbrella would be, and I can't think of one place that would be like the overseer of all that at this point.
This
Can I
has
ask a
100%.
question about,
Yeah,
would it ever make sense that a recommendation from this committee, again, instead of getting so granular about all these different brochures, that a recommendation is to create that education subcommittee? Because again, between Emily and Dave's comments, like the town, there is so much more infrastructure in the town, but now I think this round is teaching our community and kind of holding each other accountable of what our different lanes are and how we can all be focused on the same common goal. And that does need to live on past this plan. And even past implementation. I think implementation could get it up and going, but that's where, at least with our nonprofit peers, we all kind of meet regularly about this stuff. But if there's a way to formalize it through this.
there's a lot more general awareness of stuff since 14 years ago also. So maybe a more generality would be appropriate with the creation of these other groups. I'm almost, these percentage points just get me. I don't know why it says 100%. Again, this is ongoing.
Yeah, the percentages were just pulled from the Excel
Yeah,
file.
I'm not in favor of any of these percentages because they're either gonna be Xed out like number 2, or they're just gonna keep going because they're evolving.
The percentages came from the last implementation committee
Yeah, I think it's stupid.
and Sarah, and it just got moved forward.
Yeah, so let's get rid of those. Cause that number 7 is ongoing, number 8 is gonna be ongoing till we're all 6 feet under it.
I
Any more
can't see
comments on
7 and 8.
Yeah, I can't either.
No, go down.
No, that's it.
Are they there?
Yeah.
Thank you.
7 is one we're sort of talking about with the public forum symposia throughout the year. Obviously, that's ongoing. Septic systems aren't going away here. Landscaping, organic gardening, back to the green grass next to the harbor.
Yeah, it should be ongoing too, because
That's ongoing.
septic systems are, rules
Ongoing.
are constantly changing
Yeah,
too.
Title V changes every year or two. Any
Yeah.
comments on 7? Any more comments?
Honestly, I feel like this could just get summed up with teach people about how they impact water flow. It's really just that simple, without having to like mine into specific topics. I mean, certainly some are more important than others, but to me, when I read 7, 8, 9, 10, and once before, they're all saying the same thing about a different topic.
Right.
We should have repaginated into one
Right.
cohesive
Make it, yeah.
message
Yeah.
here.
And I mean, I don't disagree that obviously, if there was some sort of group that's just focused on educating people about their impacts to water quality consistently and in permanence,
Yeah.
that solves a lot of these problems.
Yeah, we don't have to have all these separate recommendations here, because they're sort of redundant in some respects.
And I agree, and they will all be long gone. They'll still have the need to do that.
Yeah, and we've talked about this number 8 before, about creating this, pamphlet for people and landscapers and whatnot about what they can and cannot do.
And it changes a lot. I mean, you still have like having legislation at the state for things.
Right. And best practices change with new
Yeah.
technology and new products and
products.
things like that.
Number 9, provide boat owners with information. We've
Sorry,
talked
can
about-
I should have just called out, but I had raised my hand. Just for 7 and 8, I certainly agree in general. I think that we can combine a lot of these, but I think under the educational objective, it's extremely important to call out the fertilizer and landscaping component. We know that that is one of the primary contributors to nutrient pollution in our harbor. And so I think that definitely needs to be called out. And I mean, I don't know if this is necessarily the place to put it. And Jeff has heard me talk about this before, but I would honestly love to see this committee discuss and potentially make a recommendation to the town for there to be a specific position that manages the town's fertilizer program and education. Because I just feel like it gets spread too thin and there's so many different priorities. And I feel like those particular aspects of education in the community, landscapers, property owners, is not getting enough attention from the town. So I'd love to see a recommendation for a town staff person to be focused primarily on that, but I definitely think that those should be called out as specific recommendations as far as education around those topics.
Well, we brought this up, I think, even at town meeting some years ago about how, when we were talking about fertilizer restrictions and stuff like that. As to how we're gonna implement it. We don't, there's not enough bodies right now working for your office to run around and catch these guys, and
Well, it's,
it's like Clambo for fertilizer.
everyone has heard me say it before and say it again, the way the regulations are set up now. You can't run an enforcement program on a gotcha basis, especially when you can't access private property
Right.
to which you're trying to catch people on. Is we need better education and tracking that goes with it, and the whole thing just needs to get redone, but in the confines of what exists, since we're not allowed to change it. The state law prohibits it right now. Hopefully town meeting will reaffirm the petition to the state to let us revamp the regulations a little bit.
Is that up tomorrow?
Mhm.
What number is that one?
I don't remember, it's in the 90s, I think,
356.
but,
There'll be like 2 people left in the room?
no, I mean, it's been approved before, it's not like it's not a ban or affirmation.
Well, I
It's just-
remember the last time we approved it.
it's just asking the state to allow the town to modify our existing regulations. We could have a whole meeting about just this whole point, for sure, but,
But it's kind of critical to include in this thing that we
It
have to
does.
continue to pursue that.
If I could just make a couple more comments, I
Yep.
think part of the problem is that we haven't for a long time had a whole meeting about this particular topic. And I know that there are some limitations right now as far as amending the actual fertilizer regulations, but the way they're set up, there's so much more flexibility for what we could be doing with the licensing program and educating landscapers and community members about the BMPs. So I'm not even necessarily just talking about enforcement. And I think there's a part later on in the matrix that talks about that a little bit more, but I'm definitely talking about education. And I don't think that any of the limitations we have in the regulations right now prohibit us from doing more and better education.
Sam?
I just strongly support all of Emily's points. I think I would also add that in this, there are so many other things that can be combined as far as publications. This is a topic that I really do not think can be combined. In fact, I would even make the recommendation to maybe pull out the 2 items of homeowners and landscapers as separate. I think that they require different approaches. We talk a lot about fertilizer enforcement. I would like to shift away from that enforcement language. And again, I understand that you cannot run things on a gotcha ticketing basis. I think education of our landscapers and education of our homeowners are 2 sides of the same coin. They're both required. Homeowners are not required to be licensed. So that's a different type of education. Landscapers are required to be licensed. To the best of my knowledge, that program is very outdated, as is the information on the website. And again, due to a lack of, bandwidth. So again, if this committee, to Emily's point, could support making the recommendation of creating some sort of, fertilizer education associate, like, again, just getting away from that enforcement language, that it's education based. The scallopers all have to renew their licenses every single year. It's a lot of paperwork. They've got to fill out a bunch of stuff, and they all have to go in person. And so to see that the landscapers are not being held to the same standard is something that's very frustrating to the fishery. I think a lot more could be done just on that education, permitting, and renewals. That's not even getting into enforcement. That's pre-enforcement. There's so much that we could be doing on the commercial side of it. And again, so much that we could be doing on the kind of personal homeowner education side. They're two separate categories to me.
Sure.
Peter?
So would it be possible to maybe, make a Concom regulation to require people to get a permit to fertilize their lawns if they live within the Harbor Watershed District? No. Some way that the homeowner would have to come in, not the landscaper, but the homeowner would have to, some way to get to that person, no matter how wealthy they are and removed they are from town government, some way that you can engage them. Because clearly, and with all great due respect to the Land and Water Council and Emily's efforts, clearly they're not hearing us at all the forums and things that we do where we have those people in the room who we know are fertilizing their lawns, but aren't owning up to it. You know, there's gotta be a way to reach them. Because you can tell the landscapers, you know. But the landscapers are gonna do what the people hiring them are telling them to do.
Yeah, they're
They're
afraid they're
not
not gonna
gonna-
get fired if they don't make the grass pretty.
They may
Yeah,
believe
be
what,
green.
they may believe what we believe. We
Spray
don't
paint.
wanna pollute the harbor. But if it's a difference between paying their mortgage or whatever and or not, and you know, they gotta do what whoever hired them, so. I just think that the education has to go to the homeowner. The landscapers pretty much know, don't they?
No,
No?
depends on who's working the landscape.
I'd say it's extremely varied.
Yeah,
I think it's 100% a two-pronged approach. We really need both, and we need a lot
Yeah.
of both.
so this should be, what we all agree on is that the issue with the fertilizer should be called out on its own recommendation. Maybe two separate recommendations, one for the people that do it and one for the homeowners. And not group it in with any of the rest of this stuff. Septics are definitely different than fertilizer and, yeah,
Yeah, I agree with that. The marine discharge is different than
yeah.
fertilizer. I mean, it is a very specific problem, and it may be the biggest problem.
Did you see that picture on the news where those stupid ass teenagers were throwing their garbage
That's
over the side of the boat?
Yeah, they got
Right.
caught.
Coming out of an inlet somewhere. in
Boca
Florida.
Inlet,
Yeah, in Florida.
yeah. 2 weeks.
Now,
ago.
there's education could have helped. There's, parents could have helped, but
Probably the parents told them to do it.
I'm telling you, when we were kids here, when we had a beach party, there wasn't a single shred of anything left on the beach because that's how our parents
Yeah.
and grandparents raised us. We never threw anything over the side of our boat. We never left anything on the beach, but I love that old sign about don't leave anything here except for your footprints.
Mhm.
What is happening? With the
May I
next
ask a question?
generations? Yeah,
For the purposes of this committee, deciding that this fertilizer two-pronged approach, these are some very important recommendations. Is it possible to kind of tag that as an item for discussion at another meeting date? To merit a little bit deeper investigation of some recommendations from this committee? Or do we just flag it as a need and then the implementation committee goes deeper? I
No,
would.
we need to go deeper ourselves so they have a direction when it gets to that point.
I agree. Looking at the folks on this committee, I would like to flag it if possible for a future agenda as a specific agenda item to go deeper into this topic.
Well, I think what Kim and the gang are doing is that they're taking all of our notes and then they're reformatting it for us to look at, nothing's finite here. So I think we'll have an opportunity to really drill down on whatever they come up with based on our comments.
So maybe it does help that we are while we're working along, whatever we're working on, maybe it does help that we are being granular, because the more information that Urban Harbors has, the much better product we're gonna get. And they won't have to be granular, but they're gonna know the root of what we're thinking about.
Well, that's why they're typing on in real time up there.
Yeah,
Yeah, definitely. It's helpful to have as granular information as possible. That doesn't all have to be right now. But, you know, the more direction we have, the more we can put into the plan, and that will give you more direction moving forward. But what we'll do after this is, you know, continue to revise all of these different recommendations, put them in a draft, and then you guys will all have the opportunity to comment and provide, you know, as much detail as you want. So there will be another opportunity to go deeper if you'd like to.
Okay. As Steve said, number 9 is different from fertilizer.
Okay, so keeping that as separate and it's ongoing.
Yep.
Okay. Number 10, that's distribute car-related water quality impact pamphlets to car owners along with registration renewal information. We're keeping that, that's ongoing. That's a form of water quality education, I assume.
What's the car issue?
Yeah.
People washing their cars, changing oil?
What's the deal with number 10? I'm not quite sure what's
I
happening.
don't really understand that with it relates to the harbor water quality.
Where did number 10, Dave, do you remember where number 10 came from? You still up there?
Yeah, my guess would be that that's related to, yeah, car washing. I don't know if that's something that really stands out to you guys as a community as being a big issue, or if there's a car washing station close to the water. But that would be my guess, is it's related to car
You know where it
washing.
came from?
I don't know where it came from, but I know there has been discussions at the SHAB level about tire dust on the roads. I don't know what you do about that, but it has been brought up.
Did you say tire dust?
Yeah, just like,
Just like tires wearing?
Yeah.
Normal tire.
I don't think this should
I
be
think
in
we-
here. I think this needs to be stricken from here.
Maybe we can just
Jeff,
limit
you
the
got-
number of cars on the island, and then the tire dust. will
Yeah,
go
that's an
down.
idea. Why don't we do
I
that?
think-
Bermuda and have a golf cart. Yep,
I think it might be the asbestos dust from the brake pads. I think that was the discussion.
I think it needs to come out of here.
I don't see the relevance.
Anybody else want to keep it in here?
No.
Okay, everybody said strike it.
I think if there are concerns about car washing, that could be incorporated into other general harbor water quality information.
I don't know
I
very
may be
many
the only guy
commercial
that washes
places
my
that
own.
wash their car down there, or very expensive people washing their car.
I
in
may
that.
be the only person in Monomoy that still washes his own car in my driveway.
We do mention it in the blue pages, washing cars, washing boats, changing oil in your
Right.
driveway, things like that.
Washing
Mentioned.
boats, yeah, washing
Washing
boats.
boats is different.
Yeah, I mean, that's,
Okay, we're on
Go.
11.
I just wanted to add, there are car washing services now that are mobile. I've seen them down on Easton Street where people will come and power wash your car while it's parked, and it does go into the storm drain. So I think that is something that should be noted.
Most of the kids that I know that are doing it are using biodegradable materials.
The ones that you know.
right.
And those are the kids that are traveling with their little van and stuff. They're raised here. All right, number 11.
Establish and enforce new littering fines, post clearly, provide more trash receptacles at area beaches, and seek funding to maintain receptacles.
Anybody seen the overflow out at Dionis before they remember to go get it?
I think that's a funding issue too.
They just don't have enough staff, number one. Number
Right.
two, they always forget because it's the potty thing is overflowed into the parking lot. They're walking through crap, literally. Because they forget that they have to go pump it. I don't go to Dionis personally.
Well, you know, it's an interesting topic because, you know, in Monomoy, there's the one public landing, but it's, you know, and we had talked about in the association where we wanted to have a garbage can put at the trailhead there by the parking lot and everything. And in the end, we decided probably not because we were worried that it would never get emptied and that people would just leave their trash there and
Yeah,
it would
right next
overflow
to it.
rather than people taking their trash with them and putting it in the car and and
They do that
going.
at the jetties. They leave it piled around the trash barrels.
Um,
I don't know about establishing enforcement littering fines. I don't know if that's within our purview to recommend at all.
Well, we recommend, we have it in there so that when the implementation committee gets going, then they follow up on it. And I think translating what our thoughts are for the plan, so that the implementation committee gets it. You know, that falls on urban harbors to really get what we're saying. So that they spell it out in the plan, so that there's no doubt. And whoever's on that committee can, hopefully it's one or two of us, they can recall, you know, we're working on this and we remember working on that or whatever, but just,
I think it's worth, recommending that more trash receptacles be put on in beach areas and around the harbor and whether it gets acted on or not, it's better to have the recommendation, not.
Problem is Surfside Beach is not within our
I
purview.
think the DPW has to be brought into this, because I have a feeling that, I've noticed that there have been barrels in town that have been removed. So clearly there is a policy thing of how much they want to do with this.
Well, they probably don't have enough people to do
Yeah.
it, but it's like
But you
not,
can't remove them in town because people need to put their crap someplace.
but I still think it's worth making the recommendation, whether
Absolutely.
they actually act on it or have the
Or-
ability to act on it.
Well, then why don't we
Well-
have the new the super, who doesn't know much about any of us? Why don't we have the new DPW super? He's a good guy. I've talked to him.
Well, I think
Have
that's
them
part of
come
the
in.
recommendation, is that we require discussion or coordination with the DPW. Because to the extent the DPW says we can't do it, that will affect whatever recommendations are made.
over.
Why don't we have the guy come in and spend 15 minutes with us? See, if sort of tell him what we're doing in the area that we're involved with and see if he has any suggestions.
Yeah, you can certainly ask you to come.
He's a good guy.
I mean, it's kind of like when I made the recommendation about, a speed limit up harbor for bigger boats. And I know that would be really hard for Sheila and her crew to enforce something like that. But if there's no regulation on the books, then there's no way to enforce it anyway.
Yeah.
It's like a speed limit.
Madam Chair, you have Jesse, who had her hand up.
Was Jesse here?
Jesse, go. Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
I just, every time we put trash, we kind of have subscribed to the belief that when we put trash barrels out, it just attracts more trash. I mean, there are some places where we do have them, but, and then at the beach and in the water, you have issues with birds picking at trash and, spreading it even more all over the place. I know there are things like the bluebellies that I think are at like Children's Beach, and those are more enclosed. But just for example, we used to have a dumpster out at 40th Pole for 4th of July. And last year we decided not to have it because we just said, let's just give it a shot. Like, because it's just so disgusting. In fact, the people who provided the dumpsters said that they weren't going to do it anymore because they had to sort through so much disgusting stuff. And like, it actually wasn't that bad when we didn't put a dumpster out. So people do take more responsibility for their own trash when you don't put the trash barrels there. But I understand some places where you absolutely do need them, and but it's something we debate on a fairly regular basis. But that's been at least the boots on the ground. Our guys have said that that's their experience, is that when you put them out there, they attract more trash, and they cause more people to be irresponsible with their trash by just leaving stuff there. So just thought I'd add my 2 cents from our perspective.
That's interesting, because I know that happens at the jetties. You should see the pile up on Sunday afternoon out around those trash barrels, and the seagulls are having a field day. Okay, interesting. But I do think
Can I
we
make
should have,
I'll make a
Debbie.
comment about,
Dave,
can I make a comment about the the different departments? I believe that when we did this before, there was a dedicated, I don't believe it was a meeting with the committee, but it was a dedicated meeting with the department heads to go over the draft plan. So they were aware of their responsibilities called out in the plan. So you know, you end up with planning and health and of course, natural resources, the harbor master and everybody. But I believe that Urban Harbors did that the last time we did this. So the department heads get an opportunity to weigh in.
And we should
That's a
include the
good idea.
DPW. We should definitely include the DPW. Okay. I'm not sure where to go with the next one. Not that we have much control over this. Bird droppings?
Rec number 12 is educate
Yeah.
year-round and summer residents about the dangers of bird droppings, including discouraging the feeding of ducks and the development of high vegetation buffer zones around ponds. Post signs advising against feeding birds.
Good luck.
Yeah,
I just scratched.
some of this stuff is like. No. I wish people would stop feeding deer. Next door to me.
I think Dave has his hand up.
Dave. Dave,
I think he turned his video
I
off.
just forgot to put my hand down.
Oh, okay. Sounds good.
You're
You're
So,
probably hearing from me anyway.
so sounds like we're maybe striking this one.
I think
yeah,
that would get rolled into the greater education. goal.
yeah. I mean, try to tell a 2-year-old or 3-year-old they can't go down to Kansu and feed them bread. Good luck with that. Those ducks are there whether you're there or not.
Bread is terrible food to ducks.
I know, that's what we fed them when we were kids too.
They're known to feed them.
We had ducks in a pond across the street from
I know.
my house.
It's all right. Our
And they were
parents didn't
terrible.
Feed us the best stuff when we were kids. either.
Dedicated.
I don't want them eating geese, however. Huh. Okay, utilize local TV and other media. That goes back to everything we already talked about on the first page. About getting the word out, water quality, et cetera, et cetera. So that again is part of the bigger picture. Ensure that recommendations from the estuary study are implemented. Okay. Explain number 14.
What is the?
It's not-
The estuary studies, so the estuaries plans that exist, there's one for, I guess, for the harbor planning. So it's one for Nantucket Harbor, and then there's one for Maddox Harbor that includes Long Pond.
Are they updated?
They need to be updated, but they're what set the TMDL or the total maximum daily load amount. They also identify management strategies within there. They definitely are due for updates. The state approved those. I think Nantucket Harbor was 2006 when they did that one. But
Wow.
I don't know. I feel like the sole purpose of our water quality program is to essentially do this. So it's very operationalized at this point.
So remove it or say ongoing or needs updating?
Well, I mean, you could really put that recommendation is, really just saying, work to improve water quality, because that's really what it says. Which I think is what this whole thing is trying to do.
It's important, Linda, because they determined the TMDL is total maximum daily load, how much the harbor, the body of water can handle. And it's a number, quantifiable number.
Was it for different things like fertilizer for like?
No, it's everything. It's
for phosphates
it's the
or-
total load of
Alphabet.
excess nutrients that could go into the harbor, and the harbor still meets state regulations for being healthy. And they did it for Sakatcha and Nantucket Harbor, Mattocket Harbor, and Hummock Pond. Yep. Right, so, and you can go onto the Estuaries Project website and read the full report. It was the UMass School for, it's SMAS, it's UMass School for Science and Technology, right? Along with DEP did it. So it's nothing to dismiss,
So should
but
we,
just right, the whole,
But it should be updated, which should be the notation here. Should be
is
updated.
it good to recommend that it should be updated or?
I think I would almost rather see that the recommendations are updated for implementation. Cause there's a lot of good in it still, but it definitely, right, like Nantucket Harbors was last reviewed by the state almost 20 years ago.
Right, and so much has changed.
Well, that's what I'm saying. This needs to be stayed
It
in,
may
it
not have
needs to
even
be
been a
updated.
federal no discharge zone 20 years ago. I forget when that went into effect, but Dave's got his hand up.
I know. Dave,
All right, the federal no discharge zone went into effect in 1993. I don't mean to, you gotta also take this into context. Back when this was being written, the estuaries study and the estuaries studies were so important to this community to develop this TMDL. And what Jeff said is correct. It's now it's been operationalized. It's handled within the natural resources department with all of the biologists and staff that we have. But you got to remember how important this was initially to get done, to establish that TMDL, like Peter said. It can't be dismissed. That information is still valid. Whether that TMDL number is still good, that's a question that Jeff has to answer. If then we need to re-engage someone like SMAS to update that, but it can't be dismissed, and you can't marginalize how important this was to do. And that's why the implementation in Rec 14 was so important.
No, I make it, and it's also important to add to Dave's comment. When this goal was written in 2000, really written in like 2008 to 2009, when this was adopted, Nantucket Harbor's
Right.
estuaries plan was 2 years old, and Mattagit's didn't exist yet and was underway. So it's a
That's
very
right.
different time. And since then, right, is we've done that. We've operationalized it. The town now has a separate water quality plan that was through the select board strategic plan in the last couple of years. And it's really evolved. So it's not to like say that it shouldn't be in there. It's just very different than when it was originally written, right? That doesn't talk about how broad that program has come along. And it also, right, is there have been a lot more players that add in, right? The land council, the land bank, the shellfish association are a lot more active in water quality than we were in
Right.
2006 to 2008.
well, how would you, leaving it in, it needs to be updated, they need to update them in 20 years, as you said. How would you phrase number 14?
I think I would just simply state that, ensure that the estuary studies are kept up to date with recommendations implemented to achieve the goals of those plans. It's really what I should say.
Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong, but don't you have a dedicated water quality person?
Yes, we do.
Okay, so prior, Tara Riley and the previous biologist did that along with shellfish and everything else. And you can't dismiss the way increased involvement with the nonprofits and et cetera. So we've come a long way to meeting that goal.
Well, it's definitely not, the word complete has no relevance here.
Well,
It's ongoing.
No, it's forever, right? Like,
It's forever. And you're gonna have to update it because
And-
things are changing so rapidly now.
and even if you manage to achieve your nutrient goals in the harbor, then the goal is to maintain and to do that. So
Right.
it's never going away.
Yeah, it's never.
And it's only gonna get harder over time, but it's just not that simple as what 14 says.
Okay, I guess,
What complete means here, I believe in the context is that we finally were able to get the TMDLs for those water bodies. So we had a number that we could work with. And it's certainly ongoing and has increased importance. So that's what complete meant there, I believe.
like, it's just confusing for people, a layperson reading this. Oh, complete, we don't need it anymore. Huh. So, yeah, I don't like this whole column. Okay, objective number 2.
Increase scientific research focused on water quality and specific issues and problems faced by Nantucket. So the first recommendation is seek funding for increased monitoring in both harbors. Also seek funding to replace town biologists.
To replace town biologist.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, so when this
They
was
trying to
written,
replace
this
you?
was when we were transitioning from Tracy Curley and Keith Conant to
First you're hearing it.
where we are, so it's,
Okay, that obviously can come out.
Okay, do you want to keep anything about monitoring? Or is that kind of like you were saying, Jeff, just already happening?
Well, that's ongoing.
that's already happening.
So it's not complete, it's ongoing. There's a lot of stuff in here that we're gonna label ongoing, so the town knows we gotta keep going with this stuff. We didn't just put it in a plan and walked away and nothing's happening. They gotta keep going. Monitoring, especially monitoring. Anybody else on this recommendation number 1?
Got it?
Okay. And I don't know if seek funding or it shouldn't be
already
maintain
have-
funding.
Don't we have?
I think you could just. I mean, I'll defer to Tara a little bit, but. I think you could totally get rid of the town biologist part, but I would just say. Continue to monitor water quality in both harbors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's that simple. I mean, we add in parameters all the time as they come up or they need to be changed or as technologies become available. I mean, I think in 2009, if you would have said we could in real time do algae cell counts in minutes with a device that we possess, I think we probably would have said you're crazy. But we do that now. So a lot of things have changed and have been improved, but I think it's important to continue monitoring and do it, but I mean, it's also the town that committed $500,000 last year, and we'll be back at town meeting tomorrow to talk about it, to just collect data on our harbors and our ponds and other environmental parameters that the town has been very committed to that. I mean, that's why I think it's just continuing to do so.
Should you put down? Continue to monitor in both harbors and collect data and maintain funding.
I mean, I think if you just even change seek to continue funds for increased monitoring of both harbors,
Yeah,
it's really that simple.
not seek anymore, because we
Yeah.
have it.
But we're still sending the water off for testing, right?
We are.
And there's been talk at town meetings and other times and everything else about being able to do that here. I mean, is that something that we should be talking about?
I'll send you the report when the town had the analysis. It's just,
It's not realistic.
no, the
Believe it or not, well
finances,
waters are sent off island.
the finances are too tough. I mean, I think we figured out, even if our department multiplied our sampling by like 10 times, included all of Wanacom's sampling, all of the health department sampling, we still wouldn't do enough
Okay.
to
Cost-
make the cost.
That's cost per year.
Yeah, okay.
And
I was
now
just
I'll
asking.
even say, without saying the dirty words, there are now other elements of concern in water that would drive the cost of making a comprehensive facility even higher
Mhm,
to make that work.
gotcha, okay.
Number 2,
That exists.
yeah. Should that come out of here?
I would say, again, for this one, and not to keep talking out of turn, but I think you could change, develop a comprehensive water quality management plan to implement the comprehensive water quality management plan. Actually, I would say implement and update the comprehensive water quality management plan.
Amazing how much stuff wasn't done back then. All right.
Can I ask a
establish-
question about that?
Yeah.
Sorry, that was formally adopted by the select board, right? I seem to recall.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So I
Okay.
have a question, sorry. It's not necessarily relevant to this committee, but Linda, you probably know the answer to it. I know the planning board is moving towards a new master plan. Would this water quality management plan fall in the bucket of town plans that they should be incorporating into the master plan. Because it wasn't on their list and I wanted to try to find out if that was the case so that I can just let them know to include it as well.
Well, not really. They have the 9 sections that they have, and it's not I'm not writing a new one. It's updating. We're supposed to every 10 years or a couple of years to pass that. But I don't know if there's a section in there.
Because they had just listed all the other, obviously, open space and recreation, coastal resilience, and
Right.
I noticed that this one wasn't on their list, and I just don't know if it should be or not, but.
Well, you know, it probably could fit in there. In the open space, I think there's a couple of sections it might go into. They're very specific sections and they have to stay in their own lanes. There is a little bit of overlap depending on which sections we're talking about. But there isn't any reason why they couldn't put in the water quality management plan along with all the other plans to protect the island. So you might want to have that conversation with
Dave
Leslie,
or, okay. Okay, I'll bring it up. Thank you.
and then you know Dave Iverson, right?
Yes, I can
I
bring it
would
up.
go
to-
right to Dave. I'd go right to Dave too. Because
Okay,
he's the chairman.
Yeah.
While they're working through this thing.
For now,
Yeah, for
Okay.
now.
I will. Thank you.
Campbell isn't gonna beat him.
could be your arch enemy,
Who?
could be your arch enemy
Who?
ending up in that position.
Who? Yeah, right. The arrogance and the self-aggrandizement is amazing. All right, so we've gone through there, established Nantucket Marine Collaborative.
What is, yeah, I don't know what.
I don't know what that means.
Dave, you,
What does that
I
mean?
can help. This is, all right, a marine collaborative was boatyard owners, mooring handlers, et cetera. It's an on again, off again initiative. It rears its ugly head every couple of years and there's a flurry of activity, but I think it could be removed.
Okay,
I was gonna say, those guys all don't play nice together.
no, try to get them to talk to each other.
Well, they can't agree on what day it is without a calendar, so.
So let's get rid of that. Futile.
And can I say one thing about Rec 1?
Yep,
About replace town biologists. I
We
love
struck it
urban
already, Dave.
harbors. I love
We
urban
struck-
harbors. I love urban harbors to death, but I think that's a typo.
Yeah,
I
something
think
doesn't
that
sound right to me about that too.
It just doesn't seem, we would have never said those words, number one, and back then we were trying to increase to have a standalone water quality biologist. So I just believe that was a typo or taken out of context.
Yep. Okay.
I think probably what it was to seek funding for the assistant town biologist maybe, because I think that we were talking about that back then also.
Yeah, I think it's just something as simple as that.
Yeah, well, it's gone. Okay, number 4. Yeah. I wouldn't put
She's
that
no
in a-
longer the town biologist.
No.
She's the Shellfish and Aquatic Resources. Like, oh,
See, there you
So we
go.
do need to fund the town biologist.
Oh, maybe we did.
God.
it is an unfunded position.
Evaluate habitat quality. All right, guys, rope it in. Evaluate habitat quality via periodic monitoring of eelgrass distribution. We've already covered this someplace else, have we not? To death?
I would just say we just need to continue to fund it. We do that in spring and fall every year now.
We have added Mattakit for the fall.
Yeah.
So we can take the word evaluate out and say continue to fund evaluation of. Is that where you want to go? Okay.
Rec 5 undertakes studies of associated flora and fauna as well as bird populations. As Nantucket Biodiversity Initiative.
That's Seth's bailiwick, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's really,
Isn't he
I,
biodiversity initiative? I think he's involved with them, so.
well, the word over on the right says remove. I'd remove it.
Some part of it.
Move it. Okay, number 6 with a big 0.
Establish-
Right. protocols and groundwater travel times for Nantucket. This is being handled, is it not?
We're actually redoing that for Nantucket Harbor right now.
So what do we do with this?
Ongoing, maybe?
Well, the word establish, they're doing it. Might have been not doing it, 12 years ago, 14 years ago. What do you want to do with
Not to
that?
put her on the spot again, and Terry, you can. I agree or disagree, either way. I think where it says things like establish on things like this, is it should be better to say. You know, regularly review and update, because what happens for us is. We'll do the study, and then it sits, right? The last time we did really significant groundwater mapping was, really the land council. Held with Horsley Witten, and most of that work was done, and Emily can correct me too, I believe it was 1992 when most of it was done and published that the town adopted. And then it's sat since then, and we haven't updated it. There's been a lot of things that have changed. We need to do a better job in general, shortening our data cycles to keep it more up to date.
I like that phrase, shorten the data cycles.
Well, I do, I mean, I hate to say, but
Well, it runs with all these reports. They haven't
Yeah.
been done for years.
no. Is we sit and we finish and we celebrate finishing, which is great, but should always have and you need to redo it again in 5 years or in
Well,
10
what good it
years.
is if it's just sitting in the closet
Yeah.
collecting dust?
Cause all of a sudden it's older than all of us and we're still using it and the information isn't good anymore.
Yeah, the number of houses that have been built up around the harbor since 1992 is incredible.
Well, just other shifts that are there, you know, land use pattern shift and surface drainage can shift and impact recharge. And there's a million different reasons why it can change, but
So
We need
instead
to
of establish, it's regularly review and update percolation rates, et cetera.
correct.
Okay. Number 7, actively monitor changes in population of algae species associated with excess. Here we go again. This is ongoing. Continue to actively monitor?
Man, I don't think, you mean, you can just put actively monitor, I think that's fine.
Okay.
Are you feeling any different?
No, I think that's fine.
Okay. Number 8.
Use current groundwater monitoring and sampling practices to create an island-wide citizen science effort to evaluate groundwater contaminants such as nutrients, bacteria, etc.
Definitely change it to community science or whatever it is, what Seth was saying, that citizen science is being phased out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is community science. Not that a layperson reading this is gonna understand what that means.
Well, lay people are pretty smart.
Anything else on number 8? Anybody? Okay. Number 9,
Evaluate harbor modeling products every 3 years, incorporate results into the water quality management plan.
What do they mean by product?
This is what we were talking about above, where, like with the estuaries plans, is they sit. We need to be updating them on a regular cycle to reflect current conditions. So I think that goal is okay, but I think it just needs to make sure that that's there, and I have to think about the time of 3 years, if that's too much, too little.
but wouldn't it be update instead of evaluate? Update harbor modeling products,
Yeah, I think that'd be a fair change.
update and evaluate. But it's ongoing, it's ongoing things. But 3 years, every 3 years?
That may be too fast for those. Because again, if you make big changes, you know, even if, let's say you cut off all the nutrients going into the harbor tomorrow. Is 3 years is a really short time frame for the harbor. That. You may be spending money on something that's not reflecting the change. But I think we could bring our water quality specialist, Emma, into the conversation on that and talk about those timeframes a little bit more for what that should be
Okay,
and work to figure that out.
so put a question mark by that one.
I mean, you'd still would be monitoring yearly to know, but updating like target goals and things like that. I think we can have a good reason on what that time frame should be,
Okay,
or criteria for knowing.
so put a question mark there.
Yeah. And you might be
Uh,
able to see things in habitat or other metrics to help see and that you need to do it too.
A recommendation, I always have trouble with that word, number 10.
Create a data clearinghouse to provide access to maps, historical data, water quality info, advice for teachers, businesses, homeowners, etc. A comprehensive database of past and ongoing research should be regularly updated and freely available.
Parts of this are stuff we've already spoken about elsewhere.
I think this is this. I think the WQAB that they have there.
Yeah.
I mean, the town, we publish all of our water quality data all the time.
So what do we do with this section? Just get it out?
I would say that it's done.
Okay. Okay, recommendation number 11.
Implement a periodic program of fecal coliform identification, engage consulting company to use DNA and bacterial identifiers to distinguish between avian, human, and canine introduced fecal matter.
What do we do with that information?
All right, so I was just gonna say, and I keep telling I put her on the spot. We've done this before for Madigan because we had that area, if you guys remember a few years ago, there was a shellfish closure kind of across Orange Landing. So we went through the exercise of doing this bacterial source tracing. And in that case, it turned out to be birds. And I think the question that comes up with it is, if you get that information, well, what do you do with it, right? Now that we know it's birds, so what are your,
Well, we can shoot
Banned
them, we can
birds.
shoot them like she shot her dog out there in North Dakota. We can just shoot the birds.
Kill 'em all.
Just kill them all.
Yeah,
I don't wanna say it's financially prohibitive, because it wasn't crazy expensive, but for the information you get at the end, I'm not sure how worth it really was. But-
I mean, in the main harbor, you know, it would be good to know if it's birds
What are you gonna
versus
do with
people dumping their holding tanks.
Yeah, or
But
septic.
Yeah.
But you're already checking for all that
We
stuff.
don't need a recommendation.
But I think if it was really high, we would be probably doing it.
Right, but I mean, it's probably, as you said, probably cost prohibitive too, to do it all the time.
It depends. Well, the problem that we ran into with that one is you also doing it as kind of a one shot, you're missing
Shoot
any
them.
baseline information around it.
Right.
You're doing it. It's definitely worthwhile at times to kind of get that quick answer to what it may be, so you can at least say it's warm-blooded mammal as opposed to it's for birds, but, it
What
can
do-
be tricky.
What do we do with this section then?
I just
Take it out?
think it's fine to get rid of.
Okay. I like this, a lot of X's.
I mean, I think it's fine to get rid of, but I do want to say, like, this is our chance to include anything and everything, because there's a lot of stuff that we forgot in the 2009 one, you know, and like, here we are 13 years later talking about new subjects, even though they're not that new. So I think, you know, when we come to these ones that we want to remove, we should consider maybe rewording them and see if we want to have like a mechanism for, you know,
I would almost
a
rather,
check on this.
rather that it says something like as needed.
Mhm.
As needed, determined by you, you know,
Mhm.
if you think there's a need to go out and do this testing for whatever, for, you know. That was a one-time event when they closed, you know, the shellfish area.
I don't
There
think
could be
it's-
other spills or things like that where they need to go in and.
I think like providing a mechanism for funding, you know, like some additional testing or something like that as needed is
Yeah.
important to include.
I think that's.
Maybe you don't have to call it out specifically for fecal coliforms or something like that, but just having a mechanism for testing.
I wonder if you put it in there to say, you know, provide funding for water quality testing for any contaminant of concern as needed.
I just think it's worthwhile keeping in there.
Yeah.
And it's gonna evolve because the water's gonna continue to warm and the climate's gonna warm, which means birds
Weird
that
stuff.
don't like the cold weather will start to, we'll get more birds.
Yeah.
You know, we did used to have oyster catchers 35 years ago. We started to get them. We didn't used to have turkey vultures.
We didn't
We
used to have
got
that
them.
many geese.
We didn't used to have year-round geese.
We don't know what's gonna be attracted and what they're gonna do in the harbor, and we better make note of this so that the lucky people that get to do this again will see that we care about this and we want it in there, and even if we're not getting anything out of it, at least it needs to be noted.
All right, we got
I agree.
3 more sections before we're done with this section, because then we're almost 2:30. But I think if you want to keep this, it has to be reworded. Recommendation number 12, ensure that suitable monitoring is established to assess any environmental effects of aquaculture activities. Is that part of the regular testing?
I feel like we have that through our water quality testing.
Yeah, so get rid of that one. Number 13, establish research priorities and integrate existing studies on and off island to quantify and evaluate the effects of water quality degradation on shellfish populations. Is that another section?
It's in the shellfish management plan.
Yeah. What do we do with this section, 13?
So it needs to be updated.
Any other comments on this section? Okay, it says updated. Number 14, last one for today. Conduct yearly benthic and water column grab samples to evaluate presence or absence of cysts deposited from the harmful algae bloom outbreak in 2005 caused by the dinoflagellate Alexandrium tamarense.
Very good.
I was in New Jersey. If you didn't pronounce people's names right, you get your kneecapped.
It's not specific, no.
No, it's not.
I think we've
They filmed The
increased,
Sopranos in my hometown, okay?
I think we've increased our HAB monitoring. So I don't think we have to be very specific because there are other HABs that are worth monitoring just.
So
in
take out
addition.
the 2,000 out the bottom line.
Check out the
The
outbreak.
specific one,
Yeah,
All right, just,
and just leave HABs in general.
yeah, loosen it up.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. It is 2:32. Good job.
Is that
Great,
all
thank you,
water?
everyone.
No,
No,
again,
I can see the
the
scroll.
4 pages.
Okay.
So we
So-
have for
Yeah.
in 2 weeks, we'll be, I think, not to jump around here, but probably go back to boating and navigation since Sheila will be there. Hopefully finish up boating and navigation, and then we'll go back into water quality.
Okay,
Sounds like a plan.
all right. Thank you, everybody. Does somebody want to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So that's the 20th is the next meeting?
Second.
2 weeks.
2 weeks. Peter made a motion to
I'll second
adjourn.
it.
Phil seconded. All those in favor, Dave,
Aye.
Sam,
I
Emily,
Aye.
Jesse,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Phil,
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
and myself. Did I miss anybody? Seth is in Florida. Okay, thank you very much, everybody.
Seth wasn't on that boat going out.
Thank you.